Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to each one of you. I am Lavina Furtado, part of the HR Learning and Engagement team. As you are aware, we have been conducting sessions to bring focus of every individual on maintaining the balance of the mind, body, and soul, especially during these current times. We have invited subject matter experts, namely Dr. Shantanu Nagarkatti and Yogacharya Surakshit ji, to share views on the importance of sleep and the need to ensure a balance between exercise and sleep. In continuation today, we have with us Dr. Niharika Yadav, who will speak about unlocking the power of sleep and dreams. An MBBS graduate, she has completed her DNB residency, preventive and social medicine from St. Stephen's Hospital, Delhi. Dr. Niharika has a keen interest in preventive medicine and believes in holistic approach to healthcare. Today, she will share facts of sleep and its different stages. She will also share a review of an interesting book, Why We Sleep, by Matthew Walker. I am sure all of you would have read the document on Walker's theory on sleep, which was emailed to you. If you haven't received it, please write back to us at HR Connect and we will be happy to share a copy with you. Without taking much time, I would now like to invite Dr. Niharika Yadav. Dr. Niharika, warm welcome to you. And
Thank you, Lavina.
Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining on this session. I'm hoping it will be a very interesting session we have a very important book review to cover. I'll start sharing my screen because I have a small presentation to keep you engaged as I go along. So, yeah, here we go. I'm sharing my screen with everybody. Okay. So the basic talk that I am going to give today is on this book review of an interesting book called Why We Sleep, Unlocking the Power of Sleep and Dreams. It's by Matthew Walker, and it's a highly recommended book and a very interesting take on sleep. So quickly, the contents of my entire session would be a brief introduction to sleep, the normal stages of sleep, why we need sleep, and what are the deviations from normal sleep before I go on to the Walker's book review. Quickly moving on, because this is going to be a quick recapitulation of something that Dr. Nagarkatti has already taken up. For those of you who are joining in for the first time, I'm just going to quickly take you through the stages of sleep and what is normal sleep. So there are basically two types of sleep. One is NREM, that is your non-rapid eye movement sleep, and the second one is your REM, which is your rapid eye movement sleep. This NREM is the first cycle of sleep. When you go from wakefulness into a sleep mode, your NREM sleep starts. So that is divided into 4 phases. The first 2 phases are basically a transition phase between wakefulness and sleep. And the stage 3 and 4 are much deeper sleep stages. And the rapid eye movement sleep is when your brain is really active. If you see the EEG waves, if you study it, there's a frenzy of activity during your rapid eye movement sleep. That is when one dreams. So in short, if I were to inculcate what each stage means, a wakeful state would mean a receptive state. You're receptive to your environment, you're getting new ideas, you're experiencing new things, you're collating new data in your mind. The NREM sleep is a stage of reflection. So basically they are storing and strengthening of thoughts and ingredients and new facts and skills. Whereas in the REM sleep is mainly for integration. Now all the raw data that you've collected and you've reflected on, so you decide what model of the world you want to integrate into your mind. So this is where your innovative insights and your problem solving abilities come in during the REM sleep. There is something called the circadian rhythm. It is a rhythm of your body that not only controls your metabolism, your hormonal release, but also your sleep. So if you see, there is a hormone called melatonin, which starts secreting at about 9 p.m. and stops being secreted at around 7:30 a.m. So this is the time where melatonin gives an indication to your body that it's now sleep time. So around 2 a.m. is your deepest sleep. Yeah. So this rhythm is called the circadian rhythm. It regulates your wakefulness and your sleepiness, which is why towards the end of the day, you start to feel sleepy. Average hours of sleep was really covered in depth by Dr. Nagarkatti, but quickly taking you through it. Newborn, let's say a baby or up to 2 months of age requires 12 to 18 hours of sleep. 3-month to 3-year-old kids require 12 to 15 hours of sleep. 3 to 5 years, they require 11 to 13 hours. Between 5 to 12 years of age, 10 to 11 hours of sleep is said to be appropriate. And as you grow older, in your teen years, 8.5 to 10 hours is enough. And as an adult, anywhere between 7.5 to 9 hours is considered an average. These are not very strict values. There may be individual variations as per your body's need. So what happens if you don't take adequate amount of sleep? Basically, what is sleep required for? You require it for sharper concentration, better immune system, improved cognition, better memory, better physical health, and also for your stress management ability. So certain factors which really affect your sleep or can cause sleep deprivation or sleep fragmentation. First is your lifestyle, consuming more alcohol, more caffeine, environmental factors like light and sound that may disrupt your sleep, psychosocial factors, let's say people who are caregivers to a patient ailing with chronic disease or new parents, people with sleep disorders, and certain medical conditions which can induce pain or cause some discomfort through the night. All of these factors can be responsible for disrupting your normal sleep. So there is this concept of sleep hygiene. We all are very aware of hygiene for our physical needs, but there is something called sleep hygiene. So sleep hygiene basically are a group of techniques that basically declutter your sleep habits. So what should we do to maintain better sleep hygiene? You should stick to sleep schedule even on weekends. Exercise is great, but avoid it towards the late evening. Avoid caffeine. Avoid alcoholic beverages before bed. Avoid large meals, and don't load yourself up on liquids before going to sleep. Avoid naps after 3 p.m. and if you're taking day naps, then they should be less than 1 hour. There should be some form of relaxation before going to bed. A hot shower helps. I'll explain all of this later as we go along. Now, having a good sleeping environment also helps immensely. Like in the sense, if you declutter your room and if the curtains are thick to curb any light, your room is soundproofed, you sleep better. But at the same time, have the right kind of sunlight exposure in your room because that is required for your circadian rhythm. Your body must get an indication to wake up to. If you feel that you're lying awake in bed for more than 20 minutes, then you should not exceed the time phase of 20 minutes. Preferably, you should try to get out of bed, try something relaxing, and then try, as sleep is triggered, then get back to bed. A good sleep posture, of course, always helps. Sleep ergonomics, including your pillow, mattress, good posture helps immensely. So, common sleep deprivation symptoms. You can have mood changes, fatigue, difficulty in concentrating, some memory issues. In the long term, it may even convert to paranoia or hallucinations. Some physical effects of sleep deprivation are there's an increased risk for heart diseases because your blood pressure becomes lower when you sleep. There are increased chances of breast cancer because melatonin decrease causes a decrease. It affects your estrogen secretion, which in turn can increase your propensity or risk for breast cancer. It can cause weight gain. It can cause issues like diabetes because the stress hormones are released more when you're sleep deprived. Stroke risk has been known to increase about 4 times through sleep deprivation. And there are higher levels of anxiety. So these are a couple of factors that can happen when you're sleep deprived. Now I'll come to the main part of my talk, which is the key essence of today's talk, basically. So we are going to be talking about why we sleep. So unlocking the powers of sleep and dreams. This is a very interesting read by a scientist called Matthew Walker. He's a neuroscientist who directs the sleep and neuroimaging lab at UC Berkeley, and he studied sleep for about 2 decades. And he studied the impact of sleep on health and disease. Now, the neuroscientist has doled out a sleep advice to the giants like NBA, NFL, Google, and Pixar, amongst many others. And this book basically takes a look at the research on the importance of sleep, as well as it's a sort of how to guide for getting better sleep for yourself. So Walker says, what are the benefits of a well-rested body? One, when we talk about a holistic approach to health these days, we talk about more mind, body, and spirit. So what does it do to your mind? It gets your mind being more creative. It reduces disruptive thinking. It makes you more focused, more attentive. You become better learners, have better memory. In spirit, you're more ethical, less likely to engage in risky behavior or unethical behavior. You become more emotionally stable, more positive. And for the body, of course, we already listed the risk it lays in terms of diabetes, in terms of heart diseases, in terms of obesity. So, and it strengthens your immune system overall and makes you more productive in general. So before I go on to the slide, I'll tell you some interesting facts. So what is Walker's theory on sleep? So Walker says some important facts about sleep. So he says there's in the 90-minute sleep cycle where you progress from NREM to REM sleep, it's not a balanced composition in the sense that the first 2-3 cycles are more dominated by NREM sleep, whereas the remaining 2-3 cycles are more dominated by the REM sleep. So 20 to 25% of a person's sleep is dedicated to the REM sleep. Now in the brain scans, if you see the former, that is NREM sleep, they'll show deep brain waves, while the latter will show a frenzy of activities like an awake brain. As the night goes on, the cycle features a higher proportion of REM sleep. That means if you cut your sleep short by 25%, you are missing out on nearly 60 to 90% of your REM sleep. So this is really a big significant amount. And anthropologically, biologically, and genetically, humans are said to be biphasic in their sleep patterns. So basically, they require a 7-8 hour night long sleep followed by a short nap, 30 to 60 minutes in the afternoon. This is what we mean by biphasic. It's biologically natural to be sleepy after lunch. So if you're sleepy during this phase, you're not alone. Biphasic sleep significantly, it decreases the mortality from heart disease. So this is an added benefit. This was an interesting fact stated in Walker's book. Another thing that he says that the earlier in the night that you sleep, the propensity for deep NREM sleep, and the later in the morning that you wake up, the more is the propensity for REM sleep. Therefore, let's say someone who sleeps between 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., they will have a different composition of sleep. That will be more of NREM than someone, let's say, who sleeps between 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. The sleep composition will be more of REM. So what does he say about this? Why are we talking so much about REM and NREM sleep? So Walker's theory is that NREM sleep is used to prune away unnecessary connections, and REM sleep reinforces the useful connections. So he has this analogy of a sculptor who alternates between carving away whole chunks of marble, that is your NREM sleep, and then adding the fine details on whatever's left, that is the REM sleep. So, and another interesting fact about REM sleep is that it's immune to being split across the sides of the brain. We all are aware that the brain has 2 hemispheres. So both sides have to remain equally active for the REM sleep. Whereas when it comes to the NREM sleep, there is a mild version of unhemispheric sleep. Let's say you're at a hotel or in a sleep lab, one half of the brain, it sleeps lighter than the other. the phenomena is absolute in some mammals like dolphins, which is very interesting. So they can rest one hemisphere at a time. Now dreams, now as we discussed, REM sleep is the phase where we have dreams. Now these dreams, they allow us to make these unusual and creative connections between different topics. So you may have heard many great intellectuals saying they got their best idea the first thing in the morning. And in the in the long term, what does sleep deprivation really do? One, it increases your risk for Alzheimer's, because when you're sleeping, the brain is flushing away toxins. Second, it can increase your risk for heart diseases because it provokes the release of a stress hormone called noradrenaline. And this is basically activation of your sympathetic nervous system, and it raises your blood pressure too. 3, it increases your chances for cancer because it devastates your immune system. And apart from this, a sleep deprived person is 2 to 3 times more likely to have calcification of coronary arteries. So this is one major effect of sleep deprivation. There are other very interesting effects that he's pointed out of sleep deprivation. The increase in speed accuracy underpinned by efficient automaticity were differently related to the amount of stage 2 NREM in the last 2 hours of an 8-hour night sleep. Let's say from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. should you have fallen asleep at 11 p.m. There's a significant difference. You obtain anything less than 8 hours of sleep, especially 6 hours of sleep, one of the 4 things happen to you. 1, your time to exhaustion drops by 10 to 30%, okay, and your aerobic output is significantly decreased. Second, there is a decrease in peak sustained muscle strength. Third, what happens is the ability of your body to cool itself after any physical exertion, which is required for any peak performance, that too is impaired by sleep loss. And lastly, there is faster lactic acid buildup in your body if you're sleep deprived. So there is a reduction in the blood oxygen saturation and a converse increase in carbon dioxide. So all these effects, if you see, they are cardiovascular, metabolic, and respiratory capability. They inhibit your capabilities of the in an underslept body. So REM sleep, he says, we all found manner of different functions, one of which is emotional first aid. He equates REM sleep to being an emotional first aid giver. It is incredible for palliative emotional benefits. You know, it's not the time that heals all wounds, but it's a time during REM sleep that provides emotional convalescence. That's what Walker says, which is very, very interesting. Now, what does he say about sleep in midlife and old age? Now, he says that the older adult simply needs less sleep. He calls it a myth. He says older adults appear to need as much sleep as your midlife and other adults, but they are simply unable to generate that quality of sleep. As you enter your 4th decade of life, there is a palpable reduction in the electrical quality and quantity of NREM sleep. Also, there is more fragmentation of sleep as you cross your 4th decade of life. There's a change in your circadian rhythm too, which means as you get older, the saying that early to bed, early to rise falls more true for you as compared to, let's say, teenagers or other age groups. So all of these factors, they have a role to play, which is why we feel that in older age, people sleep less or they have more sleep deprivation. Irrespective, in any age, sleep deprivation will exhibit physical ailments, mental instability, reduced alertness, and reduced memory if your sleep is chronically sleep deprived. So the question to ask is, after waking up in the morning, could you fall back asleep at 10 or 11 a.m.? If you answer yes, then you're likely not getting sufficient sleep quality or quantity. This is what Matthew Walker says. So what does he say? So he says, you know, if we all slept enough, our healthcare burden would plummet and we would have better mental health and fewer suicides. Our business would be more productive, global economies would be healthier, our roads would be safer, and our children would be smarter. Sleep is the very best health insurance policy you could ever wish for. So you can see, this book has been recommended by many prominent personalities. Bill Gates' daughter recommended this book to him. After having read it, he tweeted, "Back in my early Microsoft days, I routinely pulled all-nighters when we had to deliver a piece of software. I've even stayed awake 2 nights in a row on occasion. I don't recommend that. The book taught me a lot about importance of better night's sleep. This book put me to sleep." This is what Bill Gates says. So what do we actually need to do for better sleep? So one first factor that affects things are light. So most of us use LED lights or LED screens. Now LED light especially contains blue light, which signals our circadian rhythm to wake up. So any LED related light has a lot of blue light, unfortunately. So avoid using screens right before going to bed, and at least try and phase out the blue light before going to bed. In addition, our bodies use decreasing temperature as a signal to sleep, which is why a hot bath always helps. It reduces your core body temperature. Caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 7 hours. So it's not recommended to take caffeine after late afternoon because it will remain in your system and will increase your alertness and reduce your propensity to sleep. You should try and go to bed and wake up around the same time and maintain this routine even through the weekend. The bedroom temperature should be very ambient. And lastly, if you can't sleep, get out of bed, do something relaxing until you get the urge to sleep again, and then go back to bed. So he says that sleep is the Swiss Army knife of health. When sleep is deficient, there is sickness and disease. And when sleep is abundant, there is vitality and health. So this very interesting quotation by Walker: "The best bridge between despair and hope is a good night's sleep." I think that's a beautiful message to take away. And lastly, he makes this argument persuasively where he says that we are in the midst of a silent sleep loss epidemic, which poses the greatest public health challenge we face in the 21st century. I'll leave you with these resonating words. With this, I'm through with my presentation and the key excerpts from the book, Walker's book. Before I actually close, I would like to answer a couple of questions that have reached me through the course of this talk. I'd like to take up a few questions which are interesting and I feel would benefit everybody. So let me see a couple of questions. So Hiranmoy Goswami, Praveen Kotwal, they ask, what is the best position to sleep? How do you sleep sound? What is the ideal pillow size? To answer your question, there is something like sleep ergonomics. The right kind of mattress, the pillow which supports your natural curvature of the neck. Your sleeping posture should be such that your ears, shoulder, and your hips should be aligned, irrespective of your posture. Let's say if you sleep on your back, a rolled pillow below your knees would help align the normal alignment of your back, which could help you sleep better. Pillows should be replaced annually, and they should be as per the comfort of your posture that you sleep in. So these are a couple of factors that can help you sleep better. There's another question by Vijayanand, Pankaj and Subrato about dreams, good dreams, bad dreams, and what is the relation between sleep and dreams. Although I have covered it during the talk on REM sleep. So REM sleep is the only time when our brain is completely devoid of an anxiety triggering molecule called noradrenaline. So when you're dreaming, you are actually processing your emotions or any stress of the day without triggering anxiety, because this hormone which triggers anxiety while you're processing your feelings is absent during NREM sleep. So to say, in a safe environment, you're able to process your emotions or stress of the day. So that is the quality of the NREM sleep. Also, the ease with which you
Conference is being recorded.
Sorry? Also, how quickly you can shift from NREM to REM sleep affects your sleep efficiency. So many of you, including Nitin, Devarshi, Avik, Anil, have asked about shift duties. What to do when you have shift duties and you cannot get the regular hours of sleep. A few tips for people who are into shift duties. You should follow the same routine to prepare for bed, day or night duty. Okay. This will encourage a pattern of recreation and get the body ready for sleep. Let's say a light snack, a warm bath, brushing your teeth, listening to soothing music, some meditation. It should be a down routine. If you have a noisy environment, try and invest in soundproofing your bedroom or using earplugs. If you're a natural early bird, then a long nap of 3 hours before your shift will reduce your sleep debt. But if you're a night owl and you find it difficult to sleep in the afternoon, at least a nap of 15-20 minutes before your shift will help. So I hope that helps some to your query. Pradeep has asked, how do we measure quality of sleep? So there are a lot of gadgets available now which break down your sleep to tell you how much NREM, how much REM sleep you're getting, what is the percentage. So sleep efficiency is basically a ratio of your total sleep time to your total time in bed. Your total sleep time is the total amount of REM and NREM sleep in one sleep cycle. And your total time in bed, of course, is very apparent. It's your time spent in bed sleeping. So this is how we get the sleep efficiency. Another interesting question that I received was from Vinay Joseph. He wants to know if diabetes affects sleep. So yes, diabetes can affect sleep, especially with poor sugar control. See, what happens is when you have poor sugar control, there may be repeated episodes of micturition through the night, which may fragment your sleep. Also, diabetics are prone to restless leg syndrome, and if they have episodes of hypoglycemia through the night, then that can be affected. So only if you have poor sugar control, largely, your sleep can be affected. So yes, I seem to have covered quite a few of the questions that were asked. Lavina, if you'd like to open the forum to questions.
Yeah, we have received some questions.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to ask the questions, otherwise I'll read it out from the chat box. Anybody wants to ask any question?
Hello.
Yeah.
Myself Takshama.
Hi, Achna.
Hi. Actually, I want to know about how can we avoid the bad dreams. I'm a physiotherapist, so I have tried a right sleeping posture and most of the things to keep in mind, but
Yes.
still somehow bad dreams are a part of the sleep quite frequently. So what does that indicate?
So, like I pointed out, basically dreams happen in your REM sleep. That is when you're processing your feelings, you know, they may be your subconscious memories, they may be your immediate feelings. So that's kind of a safe space to process your feelings. It's directly related to your sum of experiences with a few exaggerations linked, you know, to something that you may have watched, something that you may have experienced, something that you may have heard. So largely what scientists believe is that, you know, your dreams may be good, bad, ugly. They are related to some of your experiences, whether something that you've heard, seen, or through somebody else's experience. So you could work on something, you know, that sort of calms your mind before you sleep. You know, happier thoughts, a better book to read, or some music which sort of takes your mind away that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is deep sleep is good or bad?
No, like I pointed out, deep sleep is the time when your body is well rested. Okay. So deep sleep is supposed to be good. It's supposed to be the time when your body, your brain is flushing out the toxins, your blood pressure is in a relaxed manner, your respiration goes down, your metabolic rate goes down. So your body is giving itself time for repair work and more relaxation.
Ma'am, you mentioned.
Okay. That means if don't people get up in the night, that is good.
I didn't get you what?
once people go to bed,
Yeah.
and if they don't get up in the night till morning
Yeah.
without any disturbance, that is good actually.
I understood. Yes, yes. Like I pointed out, sleep fragmentation also reduces the quality of your sleep. Let's say somebody who's had fragmented sleep, woke up several times a night, will not feel as rested. So that is why I asked the question. If you ask yourself if you were to sleep back at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m., you'll probably say yes if you've had a fragmented sleep.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Ma'am, you mentioned 7 to 9 hours sleep as what is required for 18 plus. Now, does what time you hit bed matter, or any time is fine as long as you get 7 to 9 hours?
No, that is why I pointed out about the circadian rhythm. You know, if you align your sleep pattern with your melatonin secretion, that's the best way to go about it, because you're less likely to have any sleep fragmentation or any disturbance, right? So it makes sense to go to sleep around the same time and wake up around the same time if your schedule allows. And like I pointed out, melatonin secretion starts its peak at 9 p.m. and around 7:30 a.m. it stops secreting. So the best time to sleep would be between these hours.
So if I understood right in saying, as long as you have a pattern, any time you sleep is fine, but try and have a pattern wherein you hit the bed and get up at the same time actually.
Correct, correct. That sort of regulates your circadian rhythm, and your body will have a signal to sleep and wake up at the same time, will feel more rested. There are less likely chances for you to wake through the night.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Very welcome.
Hi, this is Sachin.
Hi.
I wanted to ask about the exercise and sleep relationship. Many of Dr. Nagarpati also specified this, you also specified this,
Yeah.
that the correct exercise is helping your sleep order. So getting a lot exercise is also affecting the sleep. Getting very less exercise is also affecting. So
Yes.
how to balance that? And is it important to exercise in the morning only or in the evening? What is the best time for that and how to identify that?
So there is no, see, we all have different schedules, okay? It depends a whole lot on your waking and sleep time. But having said that, if I were to go by Walker's book, who's researched through many articles, he says that later in the day, if you exercise later in the day, your body will not feel as rested or as prepared to be sleepy. So preferably the exercise should be done earlier in the day.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, some physicians say that if you're
I
not
understand your
comfortable
question,
in the morning, so you can exercise in the evening before say 4 to 5 hours before bed.
yeah, of course. But very close to your bedtime, if you exercise, obviously your body is in a very active state then. It's not ready to be in a rested state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
Hi, I'm
Hello,
Yogesh
ma'am.
here.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
How do you avoid snoring during night sleep?
See, snoring is related to a whole lot of other factors that needs a lot of looking into. It's not something that you consciously do. So people who are overweight, people who have certain sleep disorders, they can snore. People who have issues with their nose, ENT related disorders, they have snoring. So first thing would be to look into what factor is causing the snoring. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Fine.
so
Thank you.
you're very welcome. Yeah.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
I'm Shyam. How we will get a quick sleep after going to bed?
Your question is, how do we get good sleep?
Good sleep, not quickly. Quickly after going to bed,
Yeah.
I want to get very quickly sleep.
Okay. So that is where I talked about the sleep hygiene. Quickly to recapitulate, sleeping around the same time and waking around the same time helps. Some relaxing exercises, meditation, that again helps to calm the mind and prepare it for sleep. A hot bath, which lowers your core body temperature, again prepares the body to sleep. And maybe a light snack, avoiding larger meals. These are a couple of things which will help you to sleep better and sleep faster.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're very welcome.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Madam, my name is Ahmed Ali.
Yeah.
I
Hi.
just want to ask you, I get one or two breaks in the between of the night sleep
Okay.
for urinating.
Okay.
So is it a good sign or what? It's a routine or normal?
That depends on if you have any other health conditions. Are you on, do you have any chronic ailments, or are you on any medication that may be causing that routinely?
No medication. I take a small pill for the blood pressure.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. So, like I mentioned, it's not once or twice waking up to, urinate every night. Definitely, we need to look deeper into what may be causing that. That may be your, overload of fluids towards the evening. So what they say is right before bedtime, don't overload yourself. Most of us find time after our work in the evening, which is when we realize, we need to fulfill daily fluid requirement, and we indulge in drinking lots of fluids. That may be one cause.
Yeah. I drink water. I don't drink water after 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Then before sleep at 10 o'clock, 10:30, I have a cup of milk, hot milk.
Okay.
That's it.
But is it a routine thing? Do you land up waking every night to urinate?
Every night, once at least.
That is something that will require more discussion. So you can probably write into me with more depth, where we can exchange a couple of questions and I could advise you on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am. This is Satya.
Yeah.
I'm
Hi.
like, when I sleep, if I put my hands on my chest, so I
Yeah.
get scary dreams. So I've tested it. It happens like if I sleep before sleeping, if my hands are on my chest,
Yeah.
the dreams are. So is there a reason behind it, or it's just a normal thing?
Well, very frankly, I haven't found any specific research about this, but if you say so, I can dig deeper into any postures that may trigger, bad dreams or something. You can probably drop in a small mail and I'll try to look up any research on this.
Yeah, ma'am, I'll do that.
Okay. All right.
Thank
you. Are there any more questions?
We have a couple of questions which is put on the chat box.
All right.
So,
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, Kulvi.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, when I see I tie a band, this fit band, and I saw my night sleep is around 33 or 35% deep sleep, and normal sleep is around 60%. Will it affect the means after 40 I will get something around the sugar level will up or BP is up? What will be the better solution for that?
Yeah, see, for that, I would encourage you to send me a graph of your previous sleep pattern for a week or so at least, So when we look through the patterns, there are many subsets that you look at. Your proportion of REM sleep, the time taken to fall asleep. This will give me a better visual clue about what may be going on, what may be required. Then we can discuss things further. Just taking one reading into account and predicting whether you're going to, develop all this. These are all effects. The physical ailments that I listed are actually effects of chronically being sleep deprived. If it's a routine thing happening with you, 1 or 2 stressful nights are not going to affect things immediately, right? So if you want a deeper clarification on your sleep, you could probably send me the data through mail and we can discuss it further.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a question from Ramesh in the chat box. He mentions, what you suggest for night duty people? What will be the correct schedule for them according to you?
Yeah, Ramesh, I had specifically answered this question if you probably heard me. just before we opened the panel up to live questions, I had answered that because a whole lot of people had asked me about night schedule. So as I mentioned, having a routine that is preparing your body to sleep around the same time, which includes a small snack, a hot shower, some meditation, some relaxation techniques. Set your time according to your night duty schedule so that your body also develops a rhythm. Secondly, when you're back and when you're trying to sleep, please make sure that your room is soundproofed. If you can't afford to do that, then you invest in some earplugs. The lighting should be minimal, so that when it's darker, melatonin secretion happens. Then apart from that, try taking a small nap, depending on whether you're a late riser or an early bird. Try and take at least half an hour to 2 hours to 3 hours, depending on your propensity to take a nap, to reduce your sleep debt just before your shift. These are a couple of things that help.
Okay. I hope, Ramesh, we've answered your question. We have a question from Pratik Mittal. His question is, how does playing white noise help in getting a better sleep?
How does playing
white noise help in getting a better sleep? Pratik?
Yeah. So Pratik, basically that is a modulation technique that is used. Any sound, you must have heard of certain sound therapy to induce sleep. All of these repeated sound of sea waves or any other soothing sound. So these repetitive sounds basically take away from your stress, and it sort of deviates your mind from active thinking and leads your mind into a state of meditative, it leads your mind into a meditative state, so to say. So this is how it kind of helps to induce sleep. So, and when you're trying to sleep on an ordinary day, and let's say somebody is banging the door or walking in, walking out, or any sound that disturbs you, that cannot be equated to this consistent same sound that's coming, and that's supposed to have a calming effect. So lots of scientists have studied what kind of sounds sort of calm the brain down, and depending on that, they are labeled as either disruptive or calming sounds. I hope that answers your question to a certain extent.
Yes, so moving on to the next question we have from Uday Singh. So his question is, please give me some tips. How can I increase my sleeping time? My sleeping time presently is 5 to 6 hours.
Yeah. So we've gone over the tips about 2-3 times. I hope your question is answered by now, because we spoke about sleep hygiene and then I repeated the same in the Walker's review. If not, the handout would definitely help you to read through those things, for a visual clue as well.
The next question we have from Mahendra Jain. His question is, what is the ideal time to sleep?
Yeah. So Mahendra, like we discussed about the circadian rhythm, I pointed out that the melatonin secretion begins at about 9 when it gets dark, and it stops secreting at about 7:30 a.m. So when the melatonin is being secreted, this is a hormone that regulates better sleep. So this is an ideal time to be sleeping.
I hope, Mahendra, that answers your question.
Hello. Hi, this is Lavina Gupta. Dr. Niharika, I wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
My question is for sleep pattern for kids aged 3 to 5 years. So making them sleep only during the night for a duration of 10 to 12 hours, like you mentioned, is good enough, or an afternoon sleep is recommended. So what's the difference?
Yeah. So for kids specifically, pediatricians in general believe that a day nap helps. See, a long continuous night hour sleep is necessary for that age group because they are in the below 2 years, maximum brain development happens. But in 3 to 5 years, the brain is still developing. And this rested state, it accentuates growth and brain development in kids. So that night, you cannot tamper with the night sleep. But a day nap obviously helps.
All right. So if, because of the day nap, if the kid doesn't want to sleep at night even till 11, 12, so what would you recommend between the two? As in, letting him sleep early and at a stretch in night,
If you
or
can shorten the duration of the afternoon nap, Lavina, and the night time should be a very regular time to sleep. Okay, and before that, the kid should also have a bedtime routine. You know, they should be fed at a certain time. There should be a warm shower before bed, and you can probably read a bedtime story. The same routine, if repeated, because the older these kids get, the more difficult it will be to put them to bed, because they are also trying to spread the emotional boundaries, and they'll try to challenge you. So it's a huge task getting them to bed. So maintaining a routine and firmness on that routine really helps.
Sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have a question from Hiranmay Goswami. This question is, does a sound sleep help in curing constipation?
A sound sleep, yes. It doesn't cure constipation, I would say, but it helps to regulate your metabolism. So what happens is your metabolism means your digestion, your body's ability to digest is your metabolism. So when you're sleeping at a routine time, waking up at a routine time, your body automatically gets an indication to pass bowel movements at a regular time. So that does help indirectly. It will not cure constipation, but yes, it is one of the factors that does affect your bowel movements.
Okay. We have answered all the questions that have come up in the chat box. If there's anything that is not answered, then you may please ask directly.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
I'm Kulbir this side again.
Yeah, hi.
Actually, ma'am, occasionally when we drink alcohol, that night we have a deep sleep in a longer hours, for longer hours. Will it affect the other day sleep, or any other means normal day sleep?
Your question is quite unclear. Are you trying to ask that when you consume alcohol, why do we sleep longer?
Yes, yes.
Alcohol has its own set of effects on the brain and the secretion of certain hormones. Okay, so that kind of puts you in a sedated state. So that's a very different thing. That cannot be equated to your normal sleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is why when you're consuming alcohol, you cannot really compare. Large amount of alcohol can also trigger you to be have disruptive sleep. For one, it induces diuresis, which can cause frequent micturition. And then secondly, to a certain level, you have a tolerance level for a certain level of alcohol, beyond which your brain will not be as active. It will go into a state of sedation, right? So that is different. Sedation is different from your normal sleep. And that's not recommended as well.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
हेलो मैम.
Hi.
मैडम माधव शर्मा. मैडम मैं एक चीज पूछना चाह रहा था कि क्या कहते हैं, जैसे हम अपनी नींद को नाइट शिफ्ट में पूरा नहीं कर पाते तो हमारी ना मेमोरी जो है थोड़ी शॉर्ट होती जाती है, मतलब हम चीज भूल जाते हैं. उसे इंक्रीज करने के लिए हम क्या कर सकते हैं, प्लीज सजेस्ट.
मैंने अपनी टॉक में ना ये बताया था कि आप जब आपका जो स्लीप डेप्थ होता है ना, डेप्थ होता है जो आप कम सो पा रहे हो रात में शिफ्ट करने की वजह से, उसको थोड़ा पूरा करना पड़ता है. तो आप जैसे डे टाइम में राइट बिफोर योर शिफ्ट, आप अगर आप सोचते हैं कि आप सो सकते हैं तो 2 से 3 घंटे की भी नैप ले सकते हैं, नहीं तो एटलीस्ट 30 to 60 मिनट्स, 15 to 20 मिनट्स डिपेंडिंग ऑन योर प्रोपेंसिटी, आप थोड़ा नैप लीजिए और अपनी बॉडी को एक रेगुलर टाइम में सोने और उठने की आदत डालिए. जब आपका नाइट शिफ्ट है तो आपका स्लीप टाइम और आपका वेक टाइम रेगुलर होना चाहिए, तभी आपकी बॉडी एक रिदम में आएगी. और इस रिदम के आने की वजह से योर बॉडी विल बी हेल्दियर, इट विल बी प्रिपेयर्ड और आपको स्लीप प्रॉपर मिल पाएगी. तो जैसा मैंने बताया था, मेडिटेशन बिफोर स्लीपिंग, थोड़ा लाइट स्नैक ले सकते हैं, वार्म बाथ ले सकते हैं. इन सब चीजों से एक रूटीन बनता है जिससे आपकी बॉडी प्रिपेयर होती है सोने के लिए.
ओके मैम, मैं जस्ट एक चीज ये कहना चाह रहा था कि जो हमारी मेमोरी है थोड़ी शॉर्ट हो जाती है सोचने की, जैसे 3 दिन बाद मैं सोचता हूँ तो फिर थोड़ा सोचना पड़ता है कि मैंने उस दिन क्या
नहीं,
किया था।
आप जो बात कह रहे हैं वो मैंने कवर किया था, मैं आपको फिर एक बार एक्सप्लेन कर देती हूँ। जब आप स्लीप डिप्राइव्ड होते हैं, जब आपकी स्लीप पूरी नहीं होती, तो आपका कॉग्निशन यानी कि आपका जो एबिलिटी ऑफ डिसीजन मेकिंग, आपका अलर्टनेस, आपका कंसंट्रेशन, ये सारे फैक्टर्स अफेक्ट होंगे। इसीलिए आपको लगता है कि आप जल्दी भूल जा रहे हैं।
ओके
तो
मैम,
आप,
थैंक
हाँ जी, तो जब आपकी स्लीप प्रॉपर होगी, आपका एक रूटीन बिल्ड होगा, तो ये सारी प्रॉब्लम्स अपने आप रिजॉल्व होने लगेंगी। यू विल हैव बेटर कंसंट्रेशन, यू विल हैव बेटर वेकफुल मेमोरी, आपका लेवल ऑफ कॉग्निशन इंप्रूव करेगा।
ओके मैम, थैंक यू।
हेलो, गुड इवनिंग मैम। मैम हितेश भारद्वाज इस साइड।
जी
मैम मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है, जैसे डे नाइट शिफ्ट में हम रहते हैं, हमारा रोटेशन रहता है, तो नाइट शिफ्ट में हम जॉब करके अब मॉर्निंग में जाके सो जाते हैं, तो काफ़ी टाइम में ये होता है बीच में उठते भी हैं, नहीं भी उठते, काफ़ी लंबे से आज तक हम सो जाते हैं। उसमें मैम मुझे ये क्वेश्चन था मेरा, जो हमारे हार्मोन्स होते हैं, जो हम डे एक्टिविटी में हमारे सीक्रेट्स होते हैं, अब नाइट शिफ्ट करके, या हमारा काफी लॉन्ग टर्म तक होता है, महीने या 1.5 महीने 2 महीने तक नाइट शिफ्ट होती हैं, तो उसमें वो हार्मोन्स डेवलप नहीं हो पाएंगे, तो वो डिफिशियंसी को हम कैसे कंट्रोल करें? अब मेडिसिन लेना जरूरी है, या हम एक्टिविटी अपनी ऐसे कैसे इम्प्रूव करें उस चीज को कि?
नहीं, देखिए, जो क्योंकि आपकी एक साइकिल की रेगुलरिटी की बात ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है। जब आप नाइट शिफ्ट्स कर रहे हैं, तो आप बता रहे हैं महीने तक आपका है, तो आपका पूरे महीने रूटीन एक होना चाहिए, एक स्लीपिंग टाइम, एक वेकिंग टाइम। थोड़ा टाइम आप इन्वेस्ट करेंगे अपनी बॉडी पे फॉर रेगुलर एक्सरसाइज एंड मेडिटेशन। जो रिमेनिंग टाइम आप अवेक रह रहे हैं, मेक श्योर आपका न्यूट्रिशन अच्छा हो, मेक श्योर आप अपनी हाइजीन पे, अपनी बॉडी पे उतना ही टाइम स्पेंड कर सकें। तो क्योंकि नंबर ऑफ आवर्स आर गोइंग टू बी द सेम, आपने शिफ्ट डे में की, आपने शिफ्ट नाइट में की, जो स्लीपिंग आवर्स आप बिता रहे हैं 7 से 9 घंटे, वो सेम रहेगा। तो बॉडी को जब आप एक रिदम में लाते हैं, तो हार्मोनल सिक्रीशन भी ऑटोमेटिकली उसी रिदम के अंदर आने लगता है।
जी, तो मैम अभी
नॉट
क्या होता है?
रिक्वायर, आपको अलग से कोई हार्मोनल प्रिपरेशन या कुछ लेने की जरूरत नहीं है। इट्स अ मैटर ऑफ टेकिंग केयर ऑफ योर रूटीन एंड योर बॉडी।
बट मैम यहाँ पे मैं एक चीज कहना चाहूंगा, जैसे हम क्या करते हैं, डे शिफ्ट में होते हैं तो हम सनलाइट हमारी मतलब हमें मिलती रहती है। अब क्या होता है, पूरी नाइट शिफ्ट करके डे में हम सनलाइट को इतना मतलब नहीं कर पाते, एक्सपोजर नहीं मिल पाता, तो उसमें क्या विटामिन डी का हमारा डिफिशियंसी हो जाएगा?
नहीं नहीं, सारे जितने लोग काम कर रहे हैं आजकल एसी एनवायरनमेंट में ही काम कर रहे हैं, कोई सनलाइट में नहीं बैठा है। विंटर्स में भी लोग ऑफिसेस के अंदर ही काम कर रहे हैं, तो यू नॉट मिसिंग आउट ऑन समथिंग।
मैम
जो
इसमें मैं एक चीज और ऐड करना चाहूंगा।
एक्चुअली मैम,
जैसे नाइट ड्यूटी कर रहे हैं हम, तो हमारा मूड स्विंग भी होता है, मतलब ज्यादा एंगर में रहना, मतलब ऐसे मूड स्विंग होता है, कभी एकदम डल हो जाना, कभी एकदम, मतलब ऐसे मूड स्विंग होता है, पता नहीं क्यों।
See, what is natural is natural. आप उसको सब्स्टिट्यूट कर रहे हैं, तो यू हैव टू रेगुलेट योर बॉडी कि आप उसका बेस्ट मैक्सिमम कैसे एक्सट्रैक्ट कर सकते हैं। तो आप इसी वजह से मैंने ये बार बार रिपीट करते हुए कहा है कि आपको एक रूटीन मेंटेन करना ही होगा, ताकि आपकी बॉडी का रिदम मेंटेन रहे। आपको अपने रेगुलर टाइम्स ऑफ एक्सरसाइज, रेगुलर टाइम ऑफ स्लीप, रेगुलर टाइम ऑफ वेकिंग अप, रेगुलर स्लीप रूटीन, यानी कि स्लीप के पहले आपको क्या क्या एक्टिविटीज करनी है ताकि आपकी बॉडी को बेटर रेस्टोरेटिव स्लीप मिले, ये फैक्टर्स मैटर करते हैं। जब आप जो बता रहे हैं कि आपके मूड स्विंग्स वगैरह होते हैं, वो स्लीप डेप्रिवेशन के सिम्टम्स हैं, यानी कि आपको प्रॉपर क्वालिटी ऑफ स्लीप ही नहीं मिल रही है।
मैम मेरा एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन था, जैसे आप बता रहे थे एनवायरनमेंट हमारा एसी एनवायरनमेंट है, उसमें कोई सिंड्रोम मतलब डिफिशियंसी नहीं होती, बट मैम मैं अपना तकरीबन 3 बार टेस्ट करा चुका हूँ थायराइड से। उसमें जब भी मैं अपना कंप्लीट बॉडी चेकअप कराता हूँ, तो मेरा विटामिन डी जो है वो कम, मतलब उसमें डिफिशियंसी है करके।
I understand 80 to 90% people have tested positive for vitamin D deficiency. अगर आप किसी भी क्लिनिक में जाके उनका डेटा मांगेंगे ना, तो मेजोरिटी ऑफ पीपल, इंडिया बीइंग अ ट्रॉपिकल कंट्री जहाँ इतना सन है, लेकिन फिर भी दिस इज एन ऑनगोइंग दिस थिंग स्टडी। तो आप अकेले नहीं है इसमें, इट इज नॉट ओनली रिलेटेड टू नाइट शिफ्ट, देयर आर सेवरल अदर फैक्टर्स। सो डोंट फील कि मतलब नाइट शिफ्ट की वजह से ही मैं विटामिन डी डेफिशिएंट होता जा रहा हूँ।
जी मैम, थैंक यू सो मच मैम।
You're very welcome.
मैडम मेरा एक सवाल है, संदीप विचारे बोल रहा
जी
हूँ।
संदीप।
प्रॉब्लम क्या है, रात को बहुत से सपने आते हैं, मतलब इतने ड्रीम्स ना, चेन ऑफ ड्रीम्स शुरू होते हैं। मतलब ऐसे लगता है जैसे सुबह उठते हैं तभी थिएटर से अगर आदमी पिक्चर देख के कैसे बाहर आता है वैसे हो जाता है। मतलब मैं सुबह आपको पूरा ड्रीम का ड्रीम मैं बोल सकता हूँ, ऐसा ऐसे रहते। तो इसके लिए माइंड को कहीं पे भी आराम नहीं है, माइंड हमेशा सोचते ही रहता है ना, तो उसके लिए कुछ है?
सी ये पॉसिबल नहीं है कि आपकी पूरी रात ड्रीम में बीते, बिकॉज देयर इज अ साइकिल इन स्लीप व्हिच यू मे नॉट बी अवेयर ऑफ। जैसा मैंने बताया, एनआरईएम और आरईएम स्लीप के बीच में स्विंग करता है, तो ये डिपेंड करता है। हाँ, ये जरूर हो सकता है कि किसी की आरईएम साइकिल थोड़ी एक्सटेंडेड हो, किसी की एनआरईएम थोड़ी कम हो, या उनकी डीप स्लीप की प्रोपेंसिटी थोड़ी कम हो। सो फॉर दिस अगेन, स्लीप हाइजीन की जो टेक्निक्स मैंने बताई है उनको अगर आप प्रैक्टिस करेंगे, यू विल डेफिनेटली सी अ मार्क डिफरेंस।
ओके, थैंक यू।
Thank you, Sandeep. I think we'll take one last question, Doctor, which is from Rakesh Nigam. So we received a chat which says, if someone is having a body clock of 5 hours sleep, how can he sleep for 7 hours? Since after 5 hours, he wakes up with a sound sleep.
Yeah. So this is where a level of physical activity comes into play. Your body has to be tired to a certain extent to even get that restorative deep sleep. So engaging in regular exercise, making sure you don't take larger meals, making sure you don't consume caffeine towards the late afternoon and evening, avoiding alcohol before sleeping, getting a good bedtime routine. अगर आप ये सारी techniques practice करते हैं तो आपकी body itself will tell you what is ideal. So the ideal level of sleep will be achieved with good sleep efficiency also. So probably आप ये सारी चीजें try कर सकते हैं. Make sure your body is has that level of physical exertion, that it is tired enough to get that amount of sleep.
Thank you.
I've had a very interactive audience, I must say, and I'm very thankful कि आप लोगों ने इतने questions रखे.
Too many questions. I know it was back to back.
That shows that they were not bored and they were engaged.
Yeah. So I guess on behalf of all of us, all those who are here, present here, we thank you for taking the session and for patiently answering all our questions.
My pleasure, absolutely.
It has been truly enriching.
Thank you very much.
So if anybody has any questions, you can also write to Dr. Niharika. And you can also connect with her. We have sent a communication on the timings that you can connect with her. So that's all from us. And thank you so much. You all have been very, very participative and very good audience.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.